Thank you, Seng. That was pretty good. I have some background for you. I'm John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, or JFK, or Jack, as he liked to be called. He was born in 1917 to a very wealthy family and a large family. He had 8 siblings, 8, 5 sisters, 3 brothers. And the dad, the old man, he was in politics. Now Kennedy, with the wealth of the family money, he was able to tour Europe right before World War II. And he was also a student at Harvard University. Now when World War II broke out, Kennedy tried to enlist into the army, and he was rejected. He had a bad back. His dad pulled some political strings and got him into the Navy. In the Navy, he was in command of a patrol torpedo boat, PT-109. It's a small boat, it's not even a ship, but it had 2 big, powerful engines, and it rode high in the water. And it skimmed across the top of the water. And he was in the South Pacific fighting the Japanese. They were on a nighttime mission. Dark. Couldn't see anything. He slowed the boat, listening. And all of a sudden, they heard this ship coming toward them. It was a Japanese destroyer. Rammed the PT-109, burst into flames and sunk. Some of the crew were killed. One of the sailors, so badly burnt, couldn't even swim, just laid there in his life jacket in the water. Kennedy, even with his bad back, he took a strap from the guy's life jacket, stuck it in his teeth, and swam. Pulled this guy to an island to safety. Kennedy was a national hero for that, for the bravery and the courage that it took to do that. And after World War II, when he came home, his older brother, Joe Jr., because his dad's name was Senior, his older brother, Joe, was supposed to continue the family legacy of politics. But Joe had been killed in Europe in World War II. So Dad turned to Jack. He said, Jack, you're going to run. You're going to be in the House of Representatives from the state of Massachusetts and the Congress of the United States down in Washington. From the House of Representatives, he ran for the Senate. And by the time in 1960, he was running for president of the United States. It was while he was working his way up through this political ladder that he met his future wife. Now I had to ask Madame Mulligan how to pronounce her last name. Her first name was Jacqueline, and her last name is French. It's Bouvier. Right? Jacqueline Lee Bouvier. So she becomes Jackie Kennedy. What a classy lady. When she was dressed in formal attire, dressed to the nines. Even in casual clothing, very chic. A very, very classy woman. Right? Eventually, they'll have 2 kids, Carolyn and John Jr. For the presidential race, Jack is up against a guy named Richard Nixon. And they were going to have a debate on television. Big deal, so what? Television. In the 1960s, television was just a little more than 10 years old. Some houses did not even have a TV. They were still listening to radio. And when they had the debate, Richard Nixon, under the hot lights, when the camera would show him, he was perspiring. And Nixon had a real heavy beard. And by the time they did a debate in the evening, this 5 o'clock shadow was on his face. He looked old and worn out. And Kennedy was smart enough to avail himself of the makeup. There sat Kennedy, smiling, not even perspiring. The election, Nixon had 49.5% of the vote. Kennedy, 49.7. By 2 percentage points, Kennedy beat Nixon. That's how close that one was. At Kennedy's inauguration, he uttered the famous words. Now, I can't do a Boston or a New England accent, so I'm just going to say the words, okay? But imagine hearing these with a Boston or a New England accent. He said, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country." Whoa, pretty powerful words. And as president, here's some of the things he did in foreign policy. Oh, before I go there, I want to tell you, when he and Jackie were in the White House, his little girl, Carolyn, he told the Secret Service, "Hey, build a tree house in the tree on the White House lawn for my little girl so she can play there." That was pretty neat. In foreign policy, the United States was up against the Soviet Union, Soviet Russia, communist Russia. Right? And one of the places that he squared off against the Soviets was over Cuba. And this became the Cuban Missile Crisis. Boy, was that a scary time. I thought the world was going to come to an end. Another place he confronted the Soviets was in the German capital city of Berlin. The Soviets had built a wall right through the middle of the city and separated free West Berlin from communist East Berlin. Well, Kennedy went to West Berlin and he gave a speech there. And he said, I can't do this either, but he said, "Ich bin ein Berliner," which means I, the American president, I see myself as someone in Berlin, West Berlin, on the free side, and we will confront you, the bad guys. One of the other places where he confronted communism was in a little-known Southeast Asian country, Vietnam. Some of you know that story. There's one more place, and I can't remember. Hang on, I gotta check my notes. I used a reading strategy here. Hang on to this. Thank you. I forgot about this one. You know the country of Israel? Kennedy backed Israel against the Arab nations. And we've been backing Israel ever since. Now, domestically, Kennedy started the Peace Corps. You know what the Peace Corps is? Yeah, Americans go out and help other people in the world. And Mr. Fraley told me to make sure I tell you this. Remember Kennedy was in the Navy? Kennedy told the Navy, hey, you start the Navy SEAL program. That's pretty neat. Kennedy started that. He appointed his younger brother, Bobby, as Attorney General. That's the top cop in the nation, the head police officer. And he told Bobby, you support civil rights and break, crush, smash those Jim Crow laws that are keeping blacks in America as second-class citizens. And when the Soviets put the first man into space, cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, Kennedy decided that, here's part of the speech that he said. And I remember this. It goes, before this decade is out, that's the 1960s, we will land a man on the moon and bring him back safely. And I thought, what? We can't even get a rocket off the launch pad, and we're going to the moon? Then I thought, you know what? Let's do it. Let's do it. Right? Well, with the death of President Kennedy, it was like, wait a minute. What about my dreams? Where's the future? What happened? Right? We're shattered.
Okay, so a lot of people remember, they're in their, what do you say, mid-50s at least? 50s, 60s, 70s, you get the idea. Where they were and what they were doing when they learned about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. My asked my mom, my mom told me years ago already that I wasn't born yet, so I'm not quite there. But my brother was. He's a little bit older than I am, and she remembers she was feeding him. He was in his high chair, and she was feeding him, and it was just, it was shock. She just couldn't believe that something like that could happen. You know that the world is going to change, that the United States of America would change once that happened. And people were glued to the television for like the next 3 days. Watching this tragic event unravel. So I was wondering if Mr. Seng, because I know he was born already, I was wondering if he'd share with you exactly where you were and what you were doing at the time of the assassination.
Yes, I'm old enough, okay? I was headed for algebra class. I was in high school. And the rumors were flying around. The president's been shot. Who? The president. What? Shot? No. Yeah. That's what the rumors were. We got into algebra class, and we're all talking. And the nun came in. I went to Central Catholic in Allentown. Sister Rita came in. And we all looked at Sister Rita. So what about these rumors? And she said, no, sit. We have work to do. And I thought, oh, good, normal. No sooner did we sit down, public address system comes on. It's Father Davey, principal of the school. Right away. Matter of factly, he just says, the president has died. And then he closed school. He said, go home. Go to your families. Go to your families so we can grieve as a nation. Never, ever forget that. You want to close?
Thank you. We could give Mr. Seng a round of applause. So now, ladies and gentlemen, what we'd like you to do this weekend, over the holidays, because a lot of you get together with friends and family, if you can find friends or relatives who